we've had a few people lately that have come in saying, I can't wear a multifocal. I've tried over and over again. They're horrible. I can't wear them. And we take that as a challenge. So what could we do to make that person get a successful wear? And there are ways of doing that from an individualization. So we take computerized tower measurements of every aspect of the eye. So where the eye sits above the frame, how wrapped the frame is, how tilted the frame is against your cheek. And how far away the back of the eye is from the frame as well. All of that's taken with multiple camera measurements as well. And when we do that and we pitch that with a premium lens, and when they come to pick them up, you can see their smile on their face, are saying, I can see, and it's not moving, and I can read, and I've never had this before. And yet they've tried a number of different multifocal lenses. So if someone's had that experience, then we would not muck about with an entry point lens. We'd go for something that's going to solve nearly every problem that we can imagine, and we go to that premium lens. And those patients are super impressed, super happy, which is amazing.
Do premium eyewear lenses actually make a difference? Are multi-coatings worth the money? And how do you choose between tints, materials, and all the different lens technologies on the market today? If you've wondered about any of this, then stick around, because that's exactly what we're covering in today's conversation. Today, once again, I'm with Martin Robinson, an experienced optometrist and the current president of the Cornea and Contact Lens Society of Australia. Martin leads Martin's Eye Care in Tasmania, where he and his team provide thorough and personalised care to their community. In this discussion, we're diving into premium spectacle and sunglass lenses, why they matter, when they matter, and what to consider if you're planning to upgrade your eyewear. But first, who am I? My name's Paul Salloway. I'm the owner of Optics Digital Marketing. We're an agency that helps independent optometrists to grow their practice. So, hi, Martin. Good to see you again.
Thanks, mate. I hope you've had a good day as well.
Have indeed.
Yeah,
Well,
we've had a good day here. And I've had a good day because I've been able to breathe properly today, which is different to what it was earlier in the week with my asthma. So, yeah, it's been a good day.
Well, breathing's always good. So I'm glad that you...
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned to you a little bit before we started, so I recently went into my local optometrist and I took the plunge with a pair of designer sunglasses, and I guess I'm like a lot of people maybe who, when they're planning an eyewear purchase like this, they put a lot of time and consideration into the frames, but really don't think so much about the lenses. And of course, the lenses are a very important part of your eyewear, obviously. And so I thought there's a lot to unpack here, and I thought you'd be a good person to ask about it. So Martin, when people hear the term premium lenses, they often think maybe it's just marketing, but what actually makes premium lenses optically different?
Well, it depends on where you go and who's selling them, I think is probably the truth of the matter. Because we hear talk, at some of the big chains, they say, look, this is the entry point, this is middle of the road, this is premium. And they're three different prices, and that's how they sell them, as low, middle, and high. But if you unpack that, is there a great deal of difference between those? And the often answer is not a great deal. And if you ask probing questions, sometimes you don't get a decent answer out of people. And I think that's true. So then, is it spiel? Is it do you want fries with that mentality? And you start to get a bit stressed and you get a bit burnt by it as well. But the reality is there's a hell of a difference between lower technology lenses, middle technology lenses, and higher technology lenses. And not everyone needs the high tech. But if you've got problems, then we can use that technology to solve those problems. So we try and match the product to the person. And if someone's got a problem with particularly glare and halos and starbursts at night, then we look for a lens that offers higher order aberration control. And what's the difference between, say, lower order aberrations and higher order aberrations? That's the difference between a cheaper lens and a better lens. So lower order aberrations, if I get my tongue around it, is what we do as optometrists. We check your prescription. We check whether or not you're long-sighted or short-sighted and whether you've got astigmatism. And that's a lower order aberration. And we fix that by doing a spectacle prescription. Higher order aberrations are totally different. And they're things like spherical aberration, coma, and there's a whole multitude of those. And you can, read out a list of them, but they're just different names for different types of halos and effects. And they are really impactful for vision. So if you want to fix those, there are lenses that have automatic reduction of say 20 different higher order aberrations and reduce those down to a minimal level for people. And we get people, in the studies that they look at, 98% of people saying things are much clearer than their other glasses. So if I wear those glasses at night, I have less problems with halos around headlights coming home. And it's not just the LED headlights, it's other lights as well. And it's something I've always had. But with these lenses that I'm wearing with higher order aberration control, I can see clearer for headlights. I can see clearer driving home, and it makes me feel more comfortable because that my vision for nights has been getting a little bit worse. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, I'm over 50. I'm starting to hit early cataracts or moderate cataracts in my eyes from my misspent youth. And I was blaming cataracts for my poor night vision, but actually it was my higher order aberrations, which are changing a bit with age. And by getting a lens that fixed that, it's made that part of my life driving home much more comfortable. And I feel safer as well because I've got more guarantee of what I'm seeing on the road.
So you talked about driving and halos. Are there any other kind of situations where people might appreciate the difference which a premium lens might offer? So around things like maybe computer work or reading, and like what other types of scenarios would premium lenses really make a difference for someone?
Absolutely. So when I talk to people, I often quiz them about what's your workstation look like. Is it one monitor? Is the monitor high set or is it low set? Is it in that's right in front of you? Are there two monitors side by side? And that changes what I would prescribe or recommend as a multifocal lens. And for some people, it's such a complicated workstation that we say, look, I can't do a normal multifocal for you. I would like to do an occupational one that's going to work perfectly for your environment, but they'll be great at your workstation, but you won't be able to drive home in them. So for those people, I sort of talk about the Swiss Army knife of glasses. That here is a very specific filleting knife. So it's going to do a very, very good job of one thing, and that's your workstation. It's going to do a terrible job of trying to do everything else. So then we make a pair for work and maybe a different pair for home. And when do people decide to go that way? They go that way when their one pair is not cutting it at work. So that's one example. Second example is if we're getting people that are saying, look, the computer is their major problem, then we go for a lens that's got a much larger computer zone. And that's what some of these newer generation, slightly more premium lenses have got, is they've got much more detail there. And why is that becoming a thing? Well, because everyone's on computers. Of my generation, everyone's on computers. If we go to a younger generation, everyone's on smartphone. So the needs for someone on smartphone world or a tablet world is different to the needs of someone that's on a computer world. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
because one is middle distance, arm's reach, looking ahead or looking down. The other is close, and we're looking down, and we sometimes have a lowered head posture as well. And all of those things need to be taken into consideration when we're recommending a lens. And then there are specialty lenses that will work as a one pair of glasses that will work better on a computer. And there are other ones that are one pair of glasses that are really designed better for up close. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So that way we can tailor that product to the person. Some of them are good for the computer and they're in a cheaper bracket. Some are good for the computer and they're in a dearer bracket. And it's those other attributes of the lenses that make a difference as well.
Yeah. Even with single vision lenses, I have seen some promotional material which suggests that there are differences in the clarity of the peripheral vision of the lenses between cheaper brands and maybe more expensive brands. Is that something that you can talk about?
Yeah, it is. There's a few things to consider. First is the cheaper lenses that you can buy are what they call stock, and stock means they're mass produced to an extent, and they're held in stock at a laboratory. And when we order them, we order stock lens, and they'll go and pick that lens for the right out of a packet that's on a shelf, and they put it in your job, and they pick the lens for the left out of a packet on another shelf, and they put it on your job, and that's how they go and get made. But the next thing is to going into what they call grind lenses, and grind lenses are custom made, and that's where you can start to do different things. So a grind lens might allow you to do a special type of inbuilt tint, which might be a yellow tint in them to create a higher contrast level. A grind lens might create smoother, less thick edges, which gives people better peripheral vision. A grind lens that's freeform designed, which means it's a computer designed curve and computer designed change from the center to the periphery across the lens, accounts for a larger field of view with less distortion and less aberrations to the side of the eye as well. So all of those things could be done, but not normally in a stock lens. They're all done in more specialty lenses as well.
All right. Well, so aside from the lens itself, then, um, so most optometrists like yourself would suggest to their patients a type of multi-coating, like,
Mm.
and there are various types of multi-coating, and you can mention, some of them if you like. So can you just talk us through what are the more popular multi-coatings and what do they do? How do they benefit the patient?
Yeah, I guess, we've been selling multi-coated lenses, or I've been selling multi-coated lenses for over 30 years. And every so many years, you get a company coming along and saying, oh, we've got the bee's knees, we've got this new coating, it's great, it's better than the old one. And I must admit, over those 30 years, those changes have been subtle, to say
Mhm.
the least,
Mhm.
between different editions of a multi-coat. They're saying they're getting better. Are they better? Are they not? There's good science behind it, but you don't always see a great impact from that. And what we do see is if we've got a lens which has had a good history of a good multi-coat, like a company, a good example of that might be Hoya. The Hoya coatings are good. They were good 30 years ago. They were stable 30 years ago. They're still good now. And I've had a look at some lenses from Rodenstock, and Rodenstock are the lenses that I'm wearing currently. And Rodenstock have got a coating that I would say is an exponential change. They've got a layer extra clean coating, which is hydrophobic. It's really hard to wet. It's really hard to get oil on it. It's really hard to get a fingerprint on it. It's very easy to clean. And if you think about super hydrophobic coatings, they form anything that touches them forms a very tight ball with a very small footprint on the lens, whereas a low surface tension forms a blob with a large footprint on the lens. So if you're getting a lens that's super hydrophobic, then nothing settles on the lens. It all forms a bead on top of the lens, and when you wipe it, it gets absorbed into the cloth and it doesn't smudge. Because the biggest problem that we have and the biggest complaint we get with multi-coats is people saying these things are always dirty. I'm always cleaning them. They're never clean. Whereas if you get a coating like these ones, these lenses are always clean. I have trouble getting them dirty. They're easy to clean.
Mhm.
And that is an exponential difference between the two. So when we have patients come in that might have had a different coating on one of ours that they're unhappy with, or they're saying they're coming with that complaint, they're horrible. I don't want that coating. I often say to them, look, let's give you a coating, this new generation coating. If you have any trouble with it, come back and I'll change it for nothing. But I think you'll be surprised at how much different it is. And when we ring those patients and check on them, they're saying, "Wow, this coating's amazing. This is much better than. There's no comparison to my old lenses." So, and I think that's the difference. If you have a lens that's well engineered, have a lens that's well created and well coated onto lenses and matched to the material underneath, we have lenses that coatings that are very stable, that are hard to scratch and hard to get dirty. And I think that's great. In saying that, there are certain occupations that I would not give a multi-coat lens to.
Mhm.
For example, plasterers. Plasterers work with dust all the time, even if they say they're using, dust-free systems and vacuum systems. Anyone that's married to a plasterer would know their clothes are full of plaster dust, and if their clothes are full of plaster dust, then their glasses are covered in it. If their glasses are covered in it and they go to wipe it with their shirt that's also covered in plaster dust, it will cut through almost any sort of technology that you can possibly put on a lens.
Yeah.
So for those patients, I would have a work pair, which would be rough and tough with a hard coat, which is hard to scratch, no extra coatings, no nothing like that. And then they would have a nice multi-coated pair for home.
Mm.
And the way I talk about that is
Yep.
like you have a uniform. You
Yep.
don't wear your uniform out to the pub on a Friday night, or maybe you do, but you wouldn't if you're going out with your wife in theory, and you get changed into something nice to go to the pub.
Mm.
Why wouldn't you change your glasses when you get home?
Right. Yeah. It's all about having an eyewear wardrobe that you can mix and match.
Well, it does, and it depends on the cost factor for that as well. So some people that's
Mm.
not an affordable thing, but then
Yeah.
you try and give them something that will then go and transition from work to
Yeah.
to social, and not have a short lifespan or something of that sort of nature.
Okay. So you mentioned a couple of popular coatings. Um, are there any coatings which you think personally should be non-negotiable? And I'm thinking in here about things like anti-reflective coatings, anti-polarization coatings. Anything else?
I don't think anything's non-negotiable, but if I'm going to sell a coating, my
Mm.
first choice would be the coating of this is the Layer Extra Clean because it's just fantastic. So what we would do in those circumstances, if price is an issue or something like that, I might take a hit on the coating and do it for a cheaper price, but I'll sell the better coating. If I've got a choice of selling a cruddy coating or a good coating, I'm going to choose the good coating. End of story. Would I recommend a multi-coat to most patients? And the answer is yes. But there are patients that don't want it and don't want to spend the money and don't need it. And we had someone like that today. And my staff said to me, Martin, do you think we should mention a multi-coat to this person? I said, I've had a chat to him about a multi-coat. He's not interested. He doesn't need it. He doesn't have it on the current pair. He hasn't had it on the previous pairs. He doesn't see the value. And we want to save a bit of money, so we're not going to do a coating this time. And we did a pair that was uncoated for him. But most people that have had a coating, if they try and get another pair without it next time, they miss the benefits of that coating. I'm here under downlights, and you can see a bit of a blue color on my lenses, which is just a reflection from my laptop screen that's bouncing off. But I've got no glare in my own eyes from the downlights that are right above me that are going off my shiny domes. And that's what I like about coatings is if I've got my head down at a desk and I've got downlights, then a coating stops me from having glare and reflections in my glasses before I see the screen. So my quality of work is better. And the same zone when I'm out and about, if I've got bright sunlight coming from above or from different angles, I don't get reflections of the sun or of my eyelashes in the back of my eyes. So the other thing that sort of we recommend heavily is if we've got a pair of sunglasses, I don't like putting a multi-coat on the outside of the sunnies, but I do like putting a coating on the back surface of the sunglasses, a back surface multi-coat. And if you look at good quality sunglasses, if you look at Mako, if you look at some of the other higher performing sunglasses, they all come standard off the rack with a back surface multi-coat because they know that makes for a better wearing experience. In the same way, if I'm doing a prescription sunglass, I want to have that back surface coating in the vast majority of my patients. Would I think twice about that for someone? If someone had had it before and it had come off or they'd had some issues with it, then I would hesitate to recommend it again because it had failed for them once before. And it might be a saltwater fisherman or someone like that that's getting salt crystals that are cutting into their lenses, which is a real drama. But across the board, as a standard, we would do a back surface coating.
So polarization. Give me an example of somebody who would benefit from having polarization and somebody who maybe wouldn't be suitable for polarization.
Okay. New European cars have their screens mounted 90 degrees out of alignment. So for those patients, polarized lenses are super bad because it makes the screen in the car go black. Now, we have to be careful about that when we quiz people because if someone says, oh, when I wear my sunglasses, I can't see the screen, well, that's why. But how do you know that? And we often quiz people about it before we recommend a polarized pair of glasses for those people because it can make their driving experience worse. In saying that, the vision driving, the other bit of technology that it affects, which is non-negotiable, and we can't have polarized lenses, is head-up displays. Head-up displays use reflected information up onto your windshield.
Okay.
And my wife's got that in her car. And she stopped wearing her polarized sunglasses that she loves to wear because she can't see her head-up display when she wears the polarized sunglasses because the polarization gets rid of reflected light, which is the head-up display. In addition to that, polarized lenses are amazing for fishing. That's what everyone thinks that they're good for because they get rid of reflections off the top of the water and you can see the fish swimming around underneath, and they're really good when you're polarizing for up a stream and walking up a stream as well. But the thing that I really like about them is they're really good if you're in the car a bit because they get rid of reflected light off bitumen and hot mix in particular. But it also gets rid of reflected light off your dashboard. And what does that mean? If you've ever been in a car and it's on a bright day, you can often see the vents of your airflow across your dashboard reflected in your windshield. If you can see that reflection of your windshield with the vents there, that's a reflection which is manageable by using a polarized pair of sunglasses. So you put a polarized pair of sunnies on, that reflection disappears and you can see straight through the windshield. The bright light coming off hot mix roads is really great. And that makes every aspect of driving better. By getting rid of those reflections, it means you have better vision outside of your car. You can have better vision on the road in front of you. You're not going to miss something because it's going to be blocked by a bright reflection. In an extreme case, that might be a cyclist on a wet road on a bright sunny day, and the reflection is so bright, your vision is restricted in that area, so you can't see the cyclist. But with a pair of polarized sunny, you'll always see them.
Okay. So it sounds like something that people, it's really a case-by-case kind of thing, and people should really talk to their optometrist about their lifestyle needs, and that'll help inform them about what type of coatings that they should get.
That's right. And for for workers too, like we recommend polarized safety glasses. And if they're roofers or they're working on large scale cement slabs, then there's a lot of reflected light off the cement slab. There's a massive amount of light off a tin roof. And polarized safety glasses then get rid of all that reflection. It's much less glare for that person for that work day. And that's a working pair. That's not a social pair to go driving and fishing on a weekend. That's your seven to four, 5 days a week sort of pair of glasses as well. So, but I think you're right. If we look at, say, 20, 30 years ago, I was selling probably 50-50 polarized and tinted, and we just have ordinary tinted lenses. Now I would sell maybe 2% tinted and the rest would be polarized.
Mm. Okay.
So it's been a big change because polarized lenses are just superior. And if we look at the problems we used to have with polarized lenses, a generation ago, so 20 odd years ago, a thing called delamination, where the polarized lenses are a sandwich, where they have a lens, they have a piece of Polaroid film and another lens. And with that sandwich, if it's sealed and it's properly done, then those lenses are good for a decade or more. But what used to happen years ago is there used to be delamination, where these would start to splay apart, and they would splay apart around the periphery. So then you'd have a clearing of the tinting. So it'd go clear, and there'd be a halo of clear, which would shrink, and you'd have a diminishing amount of tint in the middle of your lens. And that was something that we used to see in Cairns when I was in the 90s when I was working up there. Is the salt water would get in and form crystals in between the layers, and they'd start to delaminate. So, but we don't see that anymore. The technology's come ahead so far. I think I've seen one delamination in the last 10 years.
Well, you mentioned tints, and that's the next thing I want to ask you about. So, like,
Mm.
again, talking about personal experience. So, when I was picking out my sunglasses, we had this conversation with my optometrist about, would you like a blue tint, or would you like a gold-colored tint, or maybe a silver tint? So, I guess there's two things here. So, one is like, is a tint really just something that changes the way other people can see you, or do people choose a tint based on how they want to see the world? I mean, like I have heard of golfers, for example, who might prefer a particular kind of tint because, on the fairway, they want to get better contrast between things. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how tints are, in fact, different from coatings.
There's a few ways that we talk about this as well. There are some people that would choose a tint or a color of polarized lens to match the color of the sunglass frame that they've chosen. So it's
Yeah,
fashion.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, end of story. Because if it's going to look bad, then why would you bother? So if you've got a hot pink sunglass, then possibly a brown lens is going to look a bit weird, but a grey lens might look better. That's one example. It's a bit of an extreme example, but you get the idea. So certain things would match really, really well. The second way that we look at sunglass lenses and colors is if we're talking about tint is what's in the middle of the lens. So it's what you see looking through it. When you're talking about blues and silvers and things, they're mirrors, which are coatings on the front surface of the lens, and they're reflections and they're cosmetic. So would a mirror change what you see through it? Not the color that you see through, but it changes the outward appearance, and it can reduce a little bit of light as well. So it can make things a better sunglass. But if we're talking about the color of the sunglass lenses, that's where we're talking about a brown or a gray are probably the two extremes. Where would we use brown lenses? We use brown lenses when we're looking for higher contrast ability, and that's particularly for golfing. So a brown lens has been shown to be a better contrast when we're looking at flight of ball down the fairway, and you'll see it on the green better and clearer with a brown lens over a grey lens. And if we talk about wacky things, that also is true of purple lenses. And Tiger Woods was wearing a purple sunglass lens for years because it was heightened contrast. Most people don't like a purple tint. So he's doing it at an extreme level because he's at an extreme level of sport, and probably because he got a bit of sponsorship as well. There's a whole gamut of things to unpack there. But the brown lenses work in that setting very, very well. Brown lenses are also really preferred by trout fishermen. Brown lenses are also preferred by people that are going hunting in the bush because they're looking for heightened contrast to see glints of eyeballs or antlers of deer or whatever they're chasing. But they're not liked by people that do deep water ocean fishing because they find them not bright, not dark enough. They find them too bright and too irritating. So in that circumstance, a grey lens is preferred for someone that's ocean fishing or deep water fishing or tuna fishing off the coast. But those grey lenses in Tassie aren't as popular every day because they're almost too dark. And on a cloudy day or an overcast day, or if you're going into an underground car park, the grey lenses can be so dark people want to cap their shades because it's too dark. And if they're prescription glasses, you can't do that because as soon as you do that, you can't see. So a brown lens has a harmonizing effect between light areas and dark areas. So we sell a lot of brown in Tassie. I didn't sell much brown in Queensland when I was up there. So I think it's regional, and it's determined a little bit by fashion of what's popular in your area, but it's also determined by the light in your area and the pastimes. There wasn't a lot of fly fishermen in Rockhampton. There was a lot more ocean fishermen, so we sold a lot of grey. Down here, I've got a very small percentage of people that are ocean fishermen, and most people are river fishermen or lake fishermen.
There's a fella who has a YouTube channel, and I just can't remember it at this moment, but he so he talks a lot about lenses, and he does really good videos about different kinds of lenses. And I've heard him talk about how different kinds of tints can have a somewhat calming effect on some people. Like, for example, in maybe in urban environments, a rose tint might work better, or something like that. So I guess for some people, like the tint can actually have like neurological benefits. I'm not sure if it's the right word, but it does actually make them feel more comfortable going about their day. Is that something that you've ever come across?
Yeah, there's a science called colorimetry, and there's a gentleman that pioneered a bit of that in the Southern Hemisphere in Dunedin, and I've got a set of lenses from him. I don't use them a lot, but I do use them occasionally for people, and particularly looking at calming down a migraine sufferer. There are specific lenses that are designed for migraine sufferers now, so we tend to use those more, but they're really expensive, and they're
Mm.
called Avulux. And Avulux are amazing. When we sell them, people think they're mind-blowingly good, but you've got to be in a chronic situation to bet that sort of dollars, because $1,000 to $1,500 for a pair of lenses is nothing to sneeze at. It's really expensive. And with the calming colors, there's some good science on various eye diseases. That's good science. So if we're talking about macular degeneration and glaucoma, there are certain tints that are helpful for those, and we carry those specialty tints, and we can get those through CR Labs in Melbourne, which is great. And there are migraine lens tints as well, that they've got, that are precursor to the Avulux, which are not as good, not as much evidence behind them, but I can get those as well up for a cheaper price. So all of those things, we've got a set of those as little clip-ons or flipper samples as well in the practice for people to try. So we've got a range of these ergonomic or medical tints that we carry and we offer. And then I've got a heap of fashion tints. I've got boxes and cartons of those, and in display boxes that we use as well. So in terms of fashion, we can do virtually anything. And even the colormatic lenses, they make them that go light and dark. And I've got them in grey and brown and green and blue and violet, and a different sort of green and a different sort of blue, and a bit of a goldy color. It's just amazing. Talking about goldy colors, there's a new Zeiss lens which has a gold mirror, a gold anti-reflective coating. So where mine's a blue blush, it's a gold blush,
Yeah.
and looks amazing. Is it better than the others? Well, Zeiss is, again, it's good heritage. It's got good history with lens coatings, but it looks impressive. So if looks is your thing and you want to get a different look, then that gold lens is like nothing else. So it's
Right.
impressive.
Gold might also be a great option if you're a person who wears a lot of gold jewelry. I think that might go well.
And it's popular in maybe a Chinese or an Asian demographic as well. So gold is seen to be a very popular type of tone or type of color. So and it's also very fashionable as well. So you see a little bit on TikTok and some of the other sort of Instagram sort of stories with these funky gold lenses at the moment.
Well, speaking of TikTok and social media, if you're getting value out of this video, don't forget to hit the like button, because it really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and increases the chances that somebody else will benefit from it as well. All right, Martin. So materials, I know about some of them. I think it's CR39 is one type, polycarbonate's another. Is it Trivex or Trivex? I always get this one wrong.
Trivex.
Trivex, yeah.
Trivex from one company, Trilogy from another company,
Mm,
Phoenix from another company, but Trivex
mm,
is the base material. Yep.
mm. So how do you help patients understand like the real differences and benefits between these types of materials?
Okay. CR39 standard material. It's been
Mm,
around for a long time. It's stable. It's relatively cheap. It's an entry point type product, and it's perfectly fine. Polycarbonate is seen as often a premium product with some of the companies, and they sell it as a preferred lens. So you get
mm,
upgraded from CR39 to polycarbonate almost universally. But poly's got some problems with it. It doesn't have a great Abbey value. It hasn't got great clarity. It is a soft material, which means it flexes. So when it mounts in frames, you can get uneven mountings, and that can cause wobbles and distortions, which can affect your vision. And we triage that for people that have got glasses they're not seeing with an offer. It's how the lenses have been mounted in the frame. The other thing with polycarbonate is it's quite soft, so it's a little bit easier to scratch. And on top of that, it's sensitive to solvents. So I had someone recently that was a wife and a bookkeeper to her husband who had a panel beating business who used paints and thinners and sprays and other bits and pieces. And she was wearing some brand new rimless glasses she got made at a chain. They were polycarbonate, and she went into the spray paint area, and the fumes that were in that area caused her lenses to crack on her face. So that's a negative for that type of material. It might be a premium product, but it's not universally great in every circumstance. As such, I don't like polycarbonate. I've got a couple of specialty lenses that are only available in polycarbonate that I will sell, but I sell it with cautions, and I tell people don't use acetone, don't use Windex because it's got acetone in it. Don't go near, be very careful with thinners in the workshop. Don't use them when you're painting the house. And what we tend to use instead is we either use a 1.6 index or an IS material, which is amazing material that's very stable and chemical resistant and temperature resistant, or we use Trivex. So Trivex is also great. So if we're talking about safety lenses are purported to be polycarbonate in the most part. I don't like using polycarbonate. We use Trivex or we use safety 1.6. Because I like the Abbey values of those lenses. The clarity value of them is better. The quality of the lenses are better. They're stiffer. They don't buckle as much, so we don't get pinch distortions with mounting in a frame. And they're a bit tougher. They don't scratch as much, and they're just better quality.
I kind of got this impression a while back that Trivex was something that you would find in safety glasses, but from what you're saying, it's also something that you could easily find in regular day-to-day spectacles or sunglasses. Is that right?
We use it quite a bit, yeah. Trivex is not used by every lab in the world, so there are certain companies that don't use something like a Trivex. But if I'm looking for Trivex as a material for a patient, I will choose a lens from that stable, from that company, because you can get that from Hoya and you can get that from CR. They're two examples. Yeah.
You mentioned Abbey value, so can you just unpack that a little for us? What is it?
Abbey value is to do with optical clarity. Is the way to think of it. Abbey value is a little bit high tech to sort of go into, but it's to do with clarity for lens thickness and other bits and pieces. So a low Abbey value lens has loss of clarity with different thicknesses and different prescriptions and things like that. And a high Abbey value lens has a much more stable level of clarity, no matter what the prescription is or the change of thickness of the lens as well. So things like Trivex have got great Abbey value. Things like a 1.6 index lens have got pretty good Abbey value as well. Polycarbonate's got a really low Abbey value, and even CR39, the old standard lens, has got a better Abbey value than polycarb.
Right. So you want a higher or lower Abbey value is better.
If we go that one again, it's a low Abbey value is polycarb. So polycarb has a low Abbey value of 30. And is prone to color fringing, which is the distortions, and a high Abbey value is clearer, and so definitely it's to do with that spread of lens type. So lower Abbey value lenses are things to avoid, and higher Abbey value are things to prefer. Another good example of Abbey value is if you look at what a spectacle lens, not a spectacle, like a microscope lens or a telescopic lens is made out of, they only want high Abbey lenses. They won't use polycarbonate.
Okay.
They use high index, or they use mineral lenses, or they use Trivex for those sort of products. And that answers everything you need to know. If they're not going to put it into your binoculars, why would you put it in front of your eyes?
Right. And I guess once upon a time, spectacle lenses were made of glass, but that's something that you don't see very much these days. And if so, why is that the case?
Risk, loss of eye, loss of sight. And I've seen that happen to my patients over the years. For 30 years, the only glass lenses I've sold have been hardened glass. But hardened glass is weird because you're storing energy in the lens to make it more resilient to an impact. If it gets a little chip in it, then it survives that impact, and it's no longer heat. There's no longer tension and protection in that lens, and the next time it hits, it's going to shatter instantly with a lower force. So we used to do safety glasses, which were hardened glass, and they were tougher than a normal glass lens by a magnitude, and they were great until they got damaged, and then they would shatter like a normal glass lens, and then people would lose an eye, and there'd be thousands of fragments of glass going to their eye. What do we see these days? What do we have in the practice that's made of glass? I've got some sunglasses that are made of glass. So, in fact, I've got a pair of sunnies here that I can show you. So this pair of sunnies is from Etnia, and it is a photochromic graduated sunglass, which is amazing. So this thing goes darker in the sun. It comes lighter when you come inside, and it is darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. And it's a mineral lens, so it's much harder, and it's hardened, which is great. But the risk with that is if you did something when you're wearing them that was physical and something hit them, could you lose an eye from that? And the answer is it's possible. We also have glass lenses in some of our Makos and some of our specialty sunglasses, our more brand name sunnies, and they put glass lenses in, and they're great for ocean fishermen. And they're hardened glass in their way, but they're also laminated. Like your laminated windshield, a laminated windshield won't shatter into 1,000 pieces. It'll break into bits and pieces. It's the same sort of thing. Once you've got the lamination in there, it's really hard to break the lens. And if it does break, it'll crinkle, which is much safer for the eye. And what's the risk when you're fishing for breaking would be a sinker. You're working, you're trying to get it up, and you've got your fish right to the edge, and then a shark comes and bites through your fish, and it gets released, and the sinker hits you in the glasses. And I've got patients that have had hooks and gang hooks go up into their eyebrow and just miss their eye. So I think it's a good idea to wear sunglasses because you don't want a hook hitting you in the eye. Yeah. But in the same vein, if you've got a hard thing hitting your sunglasses, it's a risk it's going to break. But that with a polarized safety glass, polarized sunglass, it's glass. It's relatively safe, and it's going to wear much better going forward because the number of hours on the sea have something hit you is very minuscule in compared to the hours on the sea that you're going to be enjoying yourself with your sunnies.
I guess another downside of glass is it's a bit heavier than some of the other types of materials, isn't it?
It's much heavier, yeah. And I've got a dent across the top of my bridge of my nose, and that's because I wore glass photochromic lenses as a child from age 9 or whenever I first got glasses up until probably my first plastic lenses were when I was 17. So I wore them for quite a long number of years, and heavy glass lenses. And I was playing sport, and I was, riding bikes and doing all sorts of other bits and pieces. And I damaged the cartilage of my nose in that growing period. So I've got a dent in my nose from wearing heavy glass lenses back in the day. And I look back on it now and I think, how the hell did I put up with it? But I think we were just tough kids. So, but I don't like doing glass lenses today. I've done one glass lens that's a prescription lens in the last, say, 15 years, and that was a hardened lens, and I had to send away to get it hardened. And I also get my patients to sign a disclaimer. If I'm doing a prescription glass lens, I get them to sign a disclaimer that I'm advising them medically that they shouldn't be getting it. They should be getting a safer plastic lens. And it's interesting when push comes to shove, people are pushing, I only want glass, da, da, da. And you say, yep, I can do it. It's going to cost you a penalty because we've got to go and get it hardened. And I'm going to have to get you to sign a disclaimer that you're going against medical advice. Very few people will sign the disclaimer. So in their heart of hearts, they know that it's not safe. So, and they're not willing to go to write away their risk, and would that certificate write away the risk? And the answer is it wouldn't. But it's trying to make people fully cognizant of the fact that they're doing something that's not 100% safe, that has a risk, and if they have a risk, that's their decision, not my decision for them.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about premium lenses and the fact that they can be a sizable investment for a lot of people. You've also talked about some horror stories of people who've had lenses that have been damaged from one thing or another.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what can patients do to maintain and care for their lenses and get the longest life period possible out of it. What are some tips that you've got for better lens care?
Okay, a couple of I'll unpack that a little bit differently. I'll answer that question, but I'm going to add another clarification as well. One thing, if your glasses are expensive and if you've got a designer frame and a premium sort of lens, they might be $1,000 or they might be, $1,200 or $1,500. They could be a hell of a lot of money. You should include that on your home insurance policy as an extra item. You include cameras, you include phones, you should include your glasses if they are expensive. The other thing you should do is make sure you take a selfie, because often people want to know that they want to prove that you own this bit of jewelry, or they want to prove that you own it. Then you should, if you've got rings that you're insuring, you should always take a photo with your ring and your face in the same shot, and time and date stamped. And if you've got glasses, then make sure you take a photo of that and keep a copy of your receipt. And that's going to help you in case something goes wrong catastrophically. Or we had a good pair of glasses the other day that the dog ate. Lenses are stuffed, frames stuffed, whole new pair of glasses, and not included on the home insurance, so the parents are having to pay for that.
Okay.
So second thing is, how do we care for glasses? Well, there's a few things. Then not using solvents on them. If you've got stuff that's stuck on your glasses, you can come to see us and we can get it off. We use special lens safe and frame safe solvents. But there is one of those that we use, which is called CitroClean. And CitroClean is available in Woolies and Coles. And it's a great lens because it's an oil-based cleaner. If it touches frames, it doesn't damage them. It replaces oils in the frame. And it dissolves things that are stuck on and things that shouldn't be on lenses as well. But the vast majority of lenses don't have anything stick to them. If they're filthy dirty because you've splashed soup on them and they've got stuff all over them, then a soap and water, but cold water, not hot water. Soap, like foaming soap, is great. Just rub over the lenses and give them a rinse under cold water. Dry them with a tissue or a soft towel, and then polish them with a chamois. A chamois are the multi-coat cloths that we've got. Okay. Multi-coat cloths are microfiber cloths, and that's all you need if there's a smudge or a fingerprint on your glasses. So if I take my glasses off and put a fingerprint on them, or try to, I can just take that chamois dry and clean the lenses. And that's all I need to do. And if you miss a bit, you go back and use a new cloth or a new part of the cloth and go to another area. And that's it. If you've got something that's dirty, then soap, water, dry them with a tissue, polish them with the chamois. Multi-coat cloths are dry cloths. They're meant to be used dry. They're not meant to be used wet. So if you spray clean a multi-coated pair of glasses, which is what most people do, then you use that cloth. Any oils that are in that cloth are going to be leached out of the cloth and be deposited onto the lens.
Okay.
So that's not what you want. So what you want to do is clean them with soap and water. That's fine. Dry them with a tissue, and a tissue won't scratch them because they're wet. Don't use aloe vera tissues. Don't use eucalyptus tissues because they're covered in oil, which is bad, which is going to coat the lenses, and you can't get that stuff off. It's disastrous, especially the aloe vera ones. They're just horrible. And once you've dried the glasses, then any smudges or streaks that are left, you use the anti-reflective coat cloth, which are microfiber cloths, which we give all our patients, and you use that as a chamois at the end. And the way to think of it, it's a bit like your car. If you wouldn't wash your car dry, then don't wash your glasses dry. So if they got grit or sawdust or something on them, rinse them with some soap and then dry them off. The reason we don't recommend hot water when we're rinsing is lenses and coatings expand and contract with heat. And if you're using heat from hot water, you're going to expand the coating first and the lens second, and there can be a splitting or a damage or a separation between the coating and the lens. If they're well matched and well designed to each other, it generally doesn't happen, but it can happen, and it happens with cheaper products for sure. So no heat is a good reason, or a good rule of thumb to live by. And then the cloth is always a dry cloth at the end. And it's like using your chamois to finish the car. Most of the car is dry, but your chamois is the final bit to take off streaks and smears off your vehicle. So, and if you wouldn't wash your car with a dry bit of dirty t-shirt or dirty work shirt, don't clean your glasses with a dirty shirt or a dirty work shirt. Whatever's in that, from grinding sparks and grit to plaster dust, is going to be like sandpaper, or wet and dry sandpaper is the way to think of it, across your lenses, and you're going to scratch them. So always use the right products. If you wouldn't clean your camera with your shirt, don't clean your glasses with your shirt.
We chatted before about the change of weather up here in Queensland. We've had some hot days recently, and I've been spending a lot of time in the local community swimming pool, and I have seen like a number of people swimming with their sunglasses. So I was going to ask you, like, what's your take on pools and chlorine and sunglasses? Is it really something that's going to be disastrous, or something that we could maybe get away with a bit of a rinse and a wipe?
I think it's something you've got to be careful with. What I tend to do for most people that wear prescription is we just sort of recommend and we sell prescription swimming goggles.
Okay.
They can be tinted or clear, takes all the stress out of it, and then you can see and you can go underwater and it doesn't matter if they get wet and they're chlorine safe. If you have your normal glasses if they have metal parts in them, those metal parts can get verdigris or rust. So that's a bad thing. So you've got to be super careful cleaning them off after, especially if it's a saltwater pool. If it's a freshwater one with chlorine, then you've got to be careful of the chlorine leaching chemicals and color out of your acetate frames, because acetate frames um, they don't like being put into caustic things, and chlorine is a caustic cleaner and a caustic environment, so it will damage your plastic frames for sure, and it can corrode your metal frames. So be a little careful. If you got your cheap, what did we used to go to the pool with? We used to go to the pool with our cruddy 4X branded giveaway sunglasses they used to give away with the carton of beer at the bottle. So they're fine. Don't worry about those. They'll be fine in the pool. I have worn my pure titanium silhouettes in the pool, and for them it's just a piece of titanium. It's not going to react. It's okay, and I could wear those and get splashed, and I know they're not going to corrode. But most frames are not pure titanium. Most frames are an alloy of some sort, and they've got a mixture of metals, and any of those metals could react to the chlorine or the pH of the pool.
All right, Martin. Well, it's been a gold mine of information as per usual, chatting with you. And I could go on for a bit longer, but all good things must come to an end. Before we wrap up,
Absolutely.
is there anything else that you'd like to add for people thinking about upgrading their lenses? What are some things that people should consider when they're going through this thought process?
I think you've got to look at your budget and you've got to look at what your needs are. So the first thing that I recommend for people is we need to talk to you. We need to find out what your needs are, what your requirements are, and then we try and work out what we would recommend in those circumstances. Because at the end of the day, the frame is one thing, but the lenses are critical because the lenses are going to make you see, to do your job, to do this, to do that. There are lenses that I can't give to someone as a safety glass. There are lenses that I shouldn't give for someone that works in an office. There are lenses that I shouldn't give for someone that works as a plasterer, for example. So there are things that are career based or job based or requirement based. The things to think about are you happy with what you've got? And that comes back to, if you're coping really well with what you've already got, do we need to go above that? And the answer is not necessarily. If you've had lenses that you've tried, and that's probably a good segue. We've had a few people lately that have come in saying, I can't wear a multifocal. I've tried over and over again. They're horrible. I can't wear them. And we take that as a challenge. So what could we do to make that person get a successful wear? And there are ways of doing that from an individualization. So we take computerized tower measurements of every aspect of the eye. So where the eye sits above the frame, how wrapped the frame is, how tilted the frame is against your cheek. And how far away the back of the eye is from the frame as well. All of that's taken with multiple camera measurements as well. And when we do that and we pitch that with a premium lens, and when they come to pick them up, you can see their smile on their face is saying, I can see, and it's not moving, and I can read, and I've never had this before. And yet they've tried a number of different multifocal lenses. So if someone's had that experience, then we would not muck about with an entry point lens. We'd go for something that's going to solve nearly every problem that we can imagine, and we go to that premium lens. And those patients are super impressed, super happy, which is amazing. But that's what I said. We've got to tailor these things to people. Like we had someone the other day that's on a pension. They get concession help for their glasses. They don't want to spend a fortune on their glasses, and we've got entry point products for that purpose, and they're good, solid lenses. And if I'm not happy with the lens that comes from a company, I stop using it and I go to a different company and get a different lens. So I think it's all about matching what the requirements are for the person, and your requirements as a pensioner might be very different to your requirements as a nurse working a shift or a specialist doing a clinic, because the requirements are different. Then what we would suggest as a lens option would be different as well. That personal tailorization, I think, is important. The same way we talk about personal curation of frames and advice in that regard, the lenses are just the next extension of that, and it's all part of the whole process.
Okay. Well, finally, how can people get in touch with you at your practice at Martin's Eye Care?
So again, we can be found on YouTube, and it's been growing our likes on our YouTube page. So that'd be lovely if they could continue. But in terms of finding us for real, my backdrop is my virtual office. It's not my real office. I had someone come in the other day saying, I looked at your video and I came into the office and I said, where did he shoot this? I couldn't see anywhere. So that's because it's an AI background, which is actually not too bad.
It looks a bit Fortune 500, doesn't it?
It does a little bit. I don't have an office like this, just so you know. But we're in on Main Road in Glenorchy. We've got the Elwick Hotel on one side of us and Shiploads on the other side of us, and we're in a medical area. So there's X-ray across the road, and there's pathology across the road, and there's a medical centre and a pharmacy all within sight. So we're a nice little medical niche that's in that area as well. Our phone number is 0362728423. We're on the web as well at www.martinseyecare.com.au. And we can be found on Hot Docs.
All right. And as Martin said, don't forget about YouTube. If you found this
Yeah.
helpful, give us a like, subscribe so you get notified when Martin releases more videos like this one. And also you can follow Martin's Eye Care on Facebook and their Instagram profile to stay updated on new content, events, promotions, and new products. All right. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks again, Martin.
Thanks very much, mate.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.